Red Huntley, David Brink, John Chen. Tom Brokaw.
Violence in Iraq. More car bombings kill and injure dozens. Insurgent violence on the rise. The high price of gasoline at the top of the agenda as the president prepares to meet the Saudis. Taking charge, Pope Benedict is officially installed as the head of the world's 1 billion Catholics. In-depth gene therapy and experimental treatment for Alzheimer's shows promise for slowing the disease. And starting over.
On a day like today.
More women are striking out and starting businesses of their own.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with John Seigenthaler.
Good evening, everyone. We begin tonight in Iraq and a new wave of violence. There were coordinated car bombings in Saddam Hussein's hometown of Tikrit and in a Baghdad neighborhood. At least 22 Iraqis were killed, 75 others injured. An American soldier died in a separate bombing. NBC's Richard Engel joins us tonight from Baghdad with the latest. Good evening, Richard.
Good evening, John. 2 bombs exploded here in Baghdad tonight in a very poor neighborhood. At least 15 people were killed. They were Shiite Muslims just leaving a mosque after evening prayers. Earlier, it was Iraqi police who were targeted. The police recruits in Tikrit were preparing to travel to neighboring Jordan for training, a trip of a lifetime for many. At first, 1 bomb exploded. Then, amid the pandemonium and blood, another detonated. The death toll was 6. It was a grim week. Just some of the victims included at least 58 Iraqi security forces, 18 Western contractors, 10 U.S. troops, and 1 journalist, Salah Ibrahim, cameraman with the Associated Press. He was shot dead yesterday in Mosul. And the Iraqi government, it remains paralyzed by disputes over power. Politicians today again failed to form a government.
There is a sort of political vacuum. And you can see now in Iraq there are many violent attacks, increasing the car bombs and increasing in chaos.
Too much negotiating. It's dragged on since January, and insurgents have grabbed the opportunity while Iraq remains weak in this drawn-out transition. Some Iraqi politicians say they will try again tomorrow to form a government and are hopeful they'll be able to do it this time. John?
Richard, you've been following this since before the fall of Saddam. Is there fear that this could be the beginning of a civil war in Iraq?
Honestly, John, civil war is a phrase that no one here likes to hear, no one likes to use. The Iraqis are scared to death of it. The U.S. military insists this is just a war against terrorists and terrorism. But with each attack, like the one tonight in Baghdad against a Shiite mosque, it is clear that there is an underpinning of religious and ethnic tension behind much of the violence here. And this is something the new Iraqi government, if it can ever get its act together and form, and the U.S. military will have to work very hard to contain. John?
NBC's Richard Engel in Baghdad. Richard, thanks. In this country, several political battles are brewing, including the fight over the president's nominee for UN ambassador, the debate over religion and politics, and the price of gasoline. NBC's Norah O'Donnell is in Crawford, Texas tonight. Rosalind Jordan is at the White House. But we begin with NBC's Chip Reed on faith and politics in the U.S. Senate. Good evening, Chip.
Well, good evening, John. Senate Republican leader Bill Frist is participating in a telecast tonight. It's produced by conservative Christian groups. Critics say it crosses the line into religious discrimination. The telecast, beamed from this Louisville church to conservative Christian radio and TV stations, depicts Senate Democrats as, quote, against people of faith because they've blocked some of President Bush's most conservative judicial nominees. Senate Republican leader Bill Frist has threatened to change the Senate rules to force votes on the nominees. In tonight's telecast, he defends that strategy, which his critics call radical.
I don't think it's radical to ask senators to vote. I don't think it's radical to expect senators to fulfill their constitutional responsibilities.
Frist's participation in the telecast has been criticized by some religious groups.
We will not allow faith to be put into one political service.
This protest in a Louisville Presbyterian church today accused Frist, a Presbyterian himself, of mixing religion and politics. But the fiercest criticism of Frist has come from his Democratic Senate colleagues. Today, one accused him of religious discrimination.
There seems to be this new attitude that if you oppose any of President Bush's judges, then that means that as a senator, you're against people of faith. Now, as a person of faith, I really resent that.
But in his remarks tonight, Frist also sounds a moderate note on the question of Terry Schiavo. Some organizers of the telecast have joined House Republican leader Tom DeLay in suggesting retaliation against judges who refuse to intervene in the Schiavo case. But tonight, Frist says he won't go along with that.
The balance of power among all three branches requires respect, not retaliation.
Now, political pundits say what's going on here is that Frist is expected to run for president in 2008, and he's trying to appeal to that Republican right without going too far. John?
NBC's Chip Reed. Chip, thank you. And we turn now to the fight over the president's nominee for ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton. The White House has launched a full-scale campaign to save the nomination. We turn to NBC's Rosalind Jordan, who joins us for the latest. Good evening, Rosalind.
Good evening, John. A senior administration official says the president and his top aides are going to continue pushing publicly for a man they say is the right one for the UN post. But the question tonight, at what political cost to the president?
I've heard enough today that I don't feel comfortable about voting for Mr. Bolton.
5 days after a Senate panel put off voting on John Bolton's nomination, the White House has launched a campaign to save it. A senior administration official tells NBC News, despite damaging testimony and accusations, they're standing by their nominee. Quote, this is about taking down a Bush nominee and defending the status quo at the United Nations. Also part of the White House campaign, this Washington Post column by former Secretary of State Lawrence Eagleburger, who says Bolton is, quote, someone with the guts to demand reform, and TV appearances by Republicans who say Bolton could help reform the United Nations.
The body's out of control. We need to push the body to be better. I think John Bolton would do that.
We need a tough guy over at the United Nations. It has become a corrupt and ineffective institution.
Despite the full court press, more negative stories about Bolton's record, including a Newsweek report which says the British saw Bolton as a threat to a disarmament deal with Libya and convinced the U.S. to pull him off the negotiating team. One Democrat says that's just more evidence Bolton is the wrong candidate.
By sending Mr. Bolton to the United Nations, a person who lacks credibility, as a result of his trying to doctor the books when it comes to intelligence, I think is a setback for the United States.
Is it time for the administration to cut Bolton loose? Presidential scholar Alan Lichtman says yes.
I think the more the nomination goes on, the more bleeding that occurs both for the nominee and the administration.
The Senate Foreign Relations Committee will vote on the Bolton nomination on May 12th. The White House is expecting Bolton to win not just that vote, but the full Senate vote as well. John?
NBC's Rosalind Jordan. Rosalind, thank you. President Bush is also facing growing pressure from an American consumer who wants him to do something about the high price of gasoline in this country. It's expected to be at the top of his agenda when he meets with Saudi leaders this week at his ranch in Texas. NBC's Nora O'Donnell joins us tonight from Crawford. Good evening, Nora.
And good evening, John. Tonight, the president is preparing to meet with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Abdullah in order to press the world's largest oil producer for help. The president is focusing on the soaring cost of oil amid concerns that the economy is slowing and that it may be hurting him politically.
High gas prices have florist Michael Walton worried. With Mother's Day just around the corner, he fears he may have to raise his prices.
I just have to go up on the prices of my deliveries and, my arrangements.
With Americans feeling pain at the pump, the president has stepped up his rhetoric.
I wish I could simply wave a magic wand and lower gas prices tomorrow. I'd do that. Unfortunately, higher gas prices are a problem that has been years in the making.
The solution, says the president, is for Congress to quickly pass his long-stalled energy proposal. Mr. Bush is also encouraging conservation and increased production. And on Monday at his Crawford ranch, the president is promising to ask Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Abdullah to boost production.
I'll be talking to our friends about making sure that they understand that if they pinch the world economy too much, it'll affect their ability to sell crude oil in the long run.
Energy expert Daniel Yergin.
The Saudis still have a little extra capacity, and it's pretty clear that they're going to step on the gas pedal and get as much oil into the market as they can physically do.
It's not just an economic concern for the president, but also a political one. The Department of Energy predicts that gas prices will reach a peak of $2.35 per gallon in May, around the same time Mr. Bush's top legislative battles like Social Security reform may be in full swing in Congress.
When a president's approval rating starts dropping down into the mid-40s and below, it starts oozing away his political capital and his ability to get things done on Capitol Hill.
And tonight, a senior administration official concedes that when people have to pay a lot for gas, quote, it's a political problem. But they hope that that problem will ease once the summer driving season ends and Congress finally gets to that energy bill. John?
NBC's Nora O'Donnell in Crawford. Nora, thank you. At the Vatican today, an estimated 350,000 people jammed St. Peter's Square to watch the official inauguration of Pope Benedict XVI, the new leader of the Catholic Church. NBC's Keith Miller has that story.
The inaugural papal mass started inside St. Peter's Basilica with prayers over the tomb of the first Pope, St. Peter. As the new Pope, Benedict XVI, emerged into the square outside, a vast crowd greeted him with applause and affection. Among the crowd, kings, queens, presidents, and prime ministers. Also there, Benedict's 81-year-old brother, George, a priest. A glimpse into the future of this papacy was contained in the Pope's homily. Benedict XVI, humble, ready to listen, and reaching out. He greeted Jews, Christians, and non-believers alike. But his theme today, the need for a worldwide Christian revival.
It's a chance for him to come out and embrace the whole church in the world, in a sense.
The reading of the Gospels in both Latin and Greek, a nod to John Paul II's lifelong desire for Christian unity. In a symbolic moment dating to the 4th century, Benedict XVI received the pallium, a woolen scarf representing the authority of the Bishop of Rome. And then the ring of the fisherman, the official seal of the Pope, signaling his acceptance of the throne of St. Peter. The reading in English delivered by Justin Ferguson from Georgia, an experience he'll never forget.
A great sense of peace when they actually went up and read. I mean, that's kind of an overwhelming experience, to say the least.
He's not yet the people's pope, but Benedict XVI is closely following the path laid out by his predecessor, Pope John Paul II. And there he was, riding the Pope-mobile through St. Peter's Square. It was both a vision of the past Pope and an insight into the new one. This shy 78-year-old man used this brief journey to seal the papal succession. Keith Miller, NBC News, the Vatican.
When NBC Nightly News continues this Sunday, treating Alzheimer's, word tonight of a new kind of therapy that appears to slow the disease. And later, why a growing number of women are trading the world of big business for a business of their own. NBC News in depth tonight, a promising first step in a new treatment for Alzheimer's disease. The experimental therapy uses a patient's own genes to help rescue dying brain cells, and there are clear signs it can delay the debilitating progress of the disease. In depth tonight, here's NBC's George Lewis.
I have a lot of those days.
75-year-old Lola Crosswhite has Alzheimer's disease, but for the last 2 years, her loss of memory has slowed down, thanks to an experimental procedure at the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine.
That's all you could expect, was just to have a little more time when you were still cognizant and that sort of thing.
Lola was one of 8 patients who underwent gene therapy. Doctors took small samples of their skin cells, treated the samples in the laboratory to create substances called nerve growth factors, then injected the cells into the patient's brains. People with Alzheimer's disease lose memory and mental capacity as their brain cells die off. Researchers are hoping that the growth factors can help rejuvenate the brain.
These growth factors, when we test them in animal models, prevent cell death in the brain, and they stimulate the function of remaining cells in the brain.
And the results of this first human trial, published today in the journal Nature Medicine, show a 40 to 50% slowing in the progression of Alzheimer's disease and an increase in brain activity. Lola's daughter says it really helped her mother.
Prior to the surgery, she was having a lot of trouble with being confused, and I noticed even right after the surgery, she said that confusion was gone.
Our hope is that it can slow the progression of the disease, so that what we would end up doing is extending the period in which patients have a better quality of life.
But he cautions years of testing lie ahead, that the therapy is not a cure.
I do believe that I have been given more good time than I would have had without the operation.
Now, 2 years after the operation, Lola is getting more forgetful again. But she says she's treasured that good time and hopes what she went through will help others someday. George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Still ahead tonight, finding the perfect ingredient for success, how savvy business owners turn day jobs into dream jobs. They changed the face of business as they entered the workplace in force. Now, women are again making big changes in the business world as thousands of seasoned professionals venture out of offices and boardrooms to create companies of their own. Here's NBC's Kevin Tibbles.
After 30 years in the corporate world, 58-year-old Franny Martin decided it was time for a change.
I could have done it 20 or 30 years ago, but not nearly as well.
When her best friend died from brain cancer, Franny took a long look at her career.
Is this really what I wanted to be doing if this were my last day on Earth?
She decided to chase her dream, left her job in big business behind, and turned to something she loved, baking.
My husband said, "These are really good cookies. Have you ever thought of selling them?" There you go.
Cookies on Call is the result, a retail and internet-based baking company near Saugatuck, Michigan. And Franny Martin is not alone. 2 out of 5 small business owners in America are over the age of 50, and an ever-increasing number of them are women.
The number of women-owned businesses is growing at twice the rate of all businesses.
In 1990, 30.6% of all self-employed women were over the age of 50. By 2004, that number had jumped to 41.6%.
The foremost reason that we saw in our research for women leaving corporations was the desire for flexibility and control over their own destiny.
When 68-year-old Ruth Grigsby's 2 daughters lost their jobs in the same month, the family decided to strike out on its own.
Starting a business has probably been one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done, and doing it with your family makes it equally more rewarding.
9 ice creams, you get 1 free.
3 years later, the women are selling Brewster's ice cream in 3 different Atlanta locations.
And when you're in corporate, you've got a piece of the business. When it's yours, you're on 24/7.
Still, the women agree stress levels are way down and they're happier.
I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled.
Now, more women than ever are doing exactly what they want to do, owning their business, taking ownership of their lives. Kevin Tibbles, NBC News, Chicago.
Coming up, can the new Pope keep American Catholics in church? And finally tonight, courting Catholic unity. It's a mission for the new Pope and considered crucial by clergy and Hispanic communities throughout the U.S. Here's NBC's Mike Taibbi.
Sunday Mass at Our Lady of Guadalupe Church in the California town of that name. A spare early 19th century coastal village that was founded as a Catholic mission, sustained then as now by farming. Hispanic Catholics. But Father Abel Sepulvede, a priest for half a century, has seen his flock shrink in size and enthusiasm in recent years, even though 80% of the town's 6,500 residents are Hispanic. Antonio Ortiz's friends have dropped out.
Sometimes I get mad because they don't come, you know.
Increasingly, they're going elsewhere, because in tiny Guadalupe, the Catholic Church now has no fewer than 6 other religious denominations competing for followers, including a Buddhist temple and the New Age Living Water Church. And in a shopping mall on the edge of town, the Calvary Church.
Jesus loved me.
A Christian outreach ministry that appeals to the young with backpacks, free haircuts, and an informal approach.
It's not like a lot of other churches where there's so much order. I mean, it's really relaxed.
Nationally, the Catholic Church has been criticized for taking its Hispanic followers for granted. Since Hispanics make up 39% of the country's 65 million Catholics, but only 1% of its bishops and 6% of its priests. The Los Angeles Archdiocese, which includes Guadalupe, sees one problem.
We don't have enough priests to serve our communities in general. We have even fewer who speak Spanish.
Shirley Juarez Boydston, Guadalupe's historian and a devoted Catholic, wonders about the future for her church and her neighbors.
The religiosity, if you will, is there. It's just which door they enter.
And it's not automatically the door of the Catholic Church any longer.
No, not automatically anymore.
The town's Catholic mayor agrees.
Some of my brothers and sisters don't always go to church as much as they should or as much as my mother would like to.
Offering his guess as to the reason why.
The church is a ship, and the ship doesn't move very fast. It turns slowly.
So slowly, the numbers say, that in Hispanic communities across the country, the ship is losing more passengers than it's gaining. Mike Taibbi, NBC News, Guadalupe, California.
That's NBC Nightly News for this Sunday. Thanks for watching. Now here's Stone Phillips with a look at what's coming up on Dateline. Stone?
Thanks, John. She's the woman who may have inspired Million Dollar Baby, this year's Best Picture. A female boxer left in a coma who fought back, she says, with the help of a mother's loving words from beyond the grave.
She told me it wasn't my time yet. You have to go back down there, you know. And I really didn't want to, but that was what she said, so that's what I did.
The story coming up on Dateline. John?
Thanks, Stone. That's Dateline at 7, 6 Central. Brian Williams will be here tomorrow. I'm John Seigenthaler reporting from New York.